Hello everyone. So today we have Deepak with us, and Deepak happens to be a veteran in data science. I have known him for quite some time, and we have been working together for last few months. And it's a pleasure knowing him as a person. And he is one of those foremost data scientists that I'm aware of who has had a tremendous amount of experience in various profiles. Without further ado, I'll just quickly introduce you guys to Deepak, and then maybe we can get to know a bit about Deepak, then we can take this conversation forward. So, Deepak, hi.
Hello, Mayuk. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Just going on surviving in this world.
Great. So, I would love to know, Deepak, before we start, maybe you can just give us a brief introduction about why it's important that we listen to you today. Because in our channel, what we try to do is like we are trying to help people who are looking to get job, who are trying to upskill themselves, or who are looking to get into the data science field, right?
Sure, Mayuk. So I'll take your first question as to why this podcast and why people should listen me. Uh, I would reiterate the fact that every year there is a World Economic Forum meeting in Switzerland, and they basically survey about the upcoming job, upcoming skills, what would be the hottest job trends in the coming future. And if you see last year's report, it clearly mentions that the top three emerging job or the emerging skills that they have highlighted, uh, they are directly or indirectly related to data. Starting from machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, business analytics. These jobs are basically the future of job market. Yodafi will jump in and try to bridge the skill gaps. So if you go through the detailed survey that they have done, what is the requirement in the job market and what is the skills availability, there is a huge gap between these two points. That is where edtech companies like Yodafi can help people upskill, so that the demand and supply gets matched. So this was uh, why today's podcast. And with respect to my journey, I happen to be a qualified chartered accountant. I didn't start my journey as a data scientist or as a data analyst. So I was a hardcore finance guy. But finance deals with numbers, and data is all about playing with numbers, right? So that's where the interest of analytics came in, while I was having my stint with Infosys and then with Ernst and Young. So I happen to be in the forensic audit domain, uh, which is there is a saying that 90% of the forensic accounting cases gets decoded because of analytics, and there we were using a lot of analytics. That is where I decided that why not leverage the analytics knowledge that I have gained, not only in fraud domain but other domains as well. So that's where I kind of migrated or shifted from a hardcore finance role into a more data science role or a data analytics role. I am with IndusNet for last 5.5 years, and we are a team of 80 plus team members, uh, doing analytics, doing data science, doing AI ML solutions day in and day out. Yeah, so that's a small introduction of mine.
So, Deepak, before we venture into the world of helping people get into understanding the basics of what data science is, what does the job market look like, what they can do to get into this field. We have data science, we have data analytics, we have data engineering. So, can you just quickly, in very simple words, explain the difference between these three? And if there are any more fields that's related to data, I would love to know.
Sure, Mayuk. So, one thing before we move into the three different stages of data analytics or data science, you say that there are a lot of people in and around who think that data science is a new domain altogether. It's not that way. Say, for example, if someone is already working in finance domain, right? He or she need not leave that particular job The whole idea of learning and getting into data science or data analytics is understanding how data analytics can be used in your current business function, and how you can create a value addition to your existing role. You need not move out entirely into a different role altogether. You need to upskill yourself, or you can say augment yourself with this, armor of data science, right? So this is a myth that, you have to switch your domain altogether. You be in your domain, you understand where are the potential areas where, analytics can pitch in and create a value addition to the organization. With respect to what are the different stages of, data analytics slash data science, there are predominantly three, segments that we generally have in data science domain. The first is the data engineering. Okay, that's where you build the structure of data science, right? So it's all about consolidating the data that is there in an organization. Say for example, in an FMCG company, there can be n number of applications where the data is residing. We will have HRMS system, we will have quality system, we will have SAP, we will have audit, various audit systems. So you see, the data is residing at various places. You don't have a single source of truth for business users to consume the data and create strategic decisions. So that's where the role of data engineers comes in. So what they do, they talk to various applications, they create pipeline to basically bring the data which is residing at each application level into one common data platform. It can be, on premises server, on premises database, or a data lake, which we, hear a lot more nowadays. So data engineering is all about creating that data pipeline, creating that infrastructure, bringing all the data points at one common place to have a single source of truth which can be consumed by business users. Now the data is there, we have got the clean data, the data is residing at one common place. What to do with it? The second step is for data analyst to start using those data points and make something called descriptive analytics. Say for example, if tomorrow my manager comes up to me and says that, I want to create some sort of dashboard which talks about my sales performance over the past 1 year, right? So whenever I'm saying over the past 1 year, I'm doing some descriptive analytics. Okay, what has already happened, I'm trying to understand and report it to organization what has already happened in the last 1 year. So that is basically the work of a data analyst. So what he or she does is uses the structured and the clean data which a data engineer has, curated and saved on a common data platform, uses tools like Tableau, Power BI, Excel, to create dashboards, to create analysis and share those reports to the stakeholders. So that's the work of a data analyst, right? Now I have submitted the report to my boss, to my manager. Now he says that fine, whatever analysis you have done, this is telling me something about what has already happened in the past 1 year with respect to sales. Can you tell me what would be my probable sales in the next 3 months, or the next 6 months, or the next 1 year? That means he wants me to predict something, or he wants me to forecast something. So whenever we have these forecasting things coming in, we have statistical concepts coming in, we have mathematics coming in. So that's where the work of data scientist comes in. Okay, so data scientist is dealing with more advanced level of analytics, predominantly looking into the future, making prediction and something called predictive analytics, right? So with the help of this predictive analytics, what we are doing is we are trying to understand the probability of any event that may occur in the near future. Okay, so these are the three segments that we have. Data engineering is an enabler function which basically facilitates and helps the data analyst and the data scientist by preparing the data for them. Data analyst is someone who basically uses these data and does historical analysis or descriptive analytics. Data scientist is someone who goes a step ahead and creates a predictive algorithm for predictive analytics domain. So these are broadly the three segments that we are talking here. Anyone can choose any of the three domains which we talked about. uh, Data engineering is more into technical, heavy side, because therein, as you rightly said, uh, we have to use lot of applications, lot of tools, lot of cloud native technologies to basically create that pipeline, create that integration with various solutions, applications available in client domain, create those ETL pipelines. So it is more technical heavy side of it. Lot of software developers, they are moving into that region. Data analyst is a domain where, if you have the knowledge of Tableau or Python, even basics, you can delve into, and these two tools are very easy to understand and operate. Anyone, any newbie who wants to start their career in this data science slash analytics, they can choose either of these three, but it is always advisable that they first go into data analyst domain, where at least they start thinking what would be the requirement of a business user, right? Once they have that understanding, they know what are the data sets they would require to create those analysis, and then they know that how to create that pipeline over the period of 3 years, 4 years down the line. They get that acumen to create that pipeline as well, and once they start upskilling themselves into data engineering domain as well. But yeah, for a newbie, it's always advisable to to start their career or a journey with data analyst rather than data engineering.
But just to add on to what you just mentioned, right? So once say the freshers, right? Because in this case what is happening is a lot of people are much more apprehensive or trying to understand, because we have been getting, like us, me in personal, have been getting a lot of inquiry from people who are trying to get into data science field regarding the salary structure. So when I talk about the entry-level data analyst salary structure, so is it similar to what data scientists or the data engineers get paid, or it's generally on the lower end of the spectrum? So how is that decided? Is it based on how technically able you are, or how much experience do you have? So what if a person does not have that experience? So how is he going to proceed with this? And secondly, as I mentioned before, the salary structure. How do you think salary structure is defined?
So, salary structure, largely speaking, is determined by your ability to think critically. I'll take my example only, Mayuk. So, whenever we recruit people in data science domain or data analytics domain, it's not that we look at the experience. Yes, experience plays a part, right? But what we generally see is how critically that particular candidate is thinking regarding any business problem, right? So even if you are a college fresher or a college pass out, you sit into in an interview and you receive a business problem. So you need to slice and dice that business problem in such a way, so that by mere understanding and going through that half paragraph of business problem, you are able to provide an in-depth solution to your client. Okay, so
Okay.
that is one of the most important thing aspect. Apart from experience, working on a live project would be very much valuable for you to crack any interview. But having said that, that should not be a roadblocker. So once you start thinking critically, once you start understanding the business problem, what is the requirement, half of your battle is won on that part. With respect to salary structure of these three domains, that these three segments that we talked about, obviously data scientists are the ones who get paid at a higher rate compared to other two. The next in line is data analyst, and last but not the least is the data engineers. But having said that, the scenarios are changing. People are able to understand the importance of data analyst and data engineers more, in terms of comparing them with data scientists. And now they both are coming up the ladder. And I would say the difference between these two domains, the data science and the rest two domains, are not much in terms of salary comparison, starting salary comparison. when I say.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the salary, like data scientist gets paid on the higher end compared to the data analyst and the engineer. So I understand that that's more subjective, right? Because there could be a data engineer who is so proficient in his own field that he ends up getting much better than maybe an analyst and a scientist. So even that's a probability, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, anyone having a AWS data engineering certification and a know-how, or an Azure, data engineering pipeline creation capability, they tend to get, compensated more, or in a better way than the data scientist and the data analyst. So it's a subjective and relative term. It all depends, but I'm talking about more on a general and an average, terms, by looking at the job scenarios and the job market for the past 5 years or so.
Right. So, how much is the coding requirement? Like, we hear a lot about Python and R when it comes to data science, right? So, if I am a newbie, or say I am from a completely different field, I'm from a commerce field, or maybe for your in your example, I'm from a finance field. So, I'm not much into coding. I know my numbers. I know how the numbers work. I am very good in maybe the logical differentiation of understanding a particular statement, problem statement. So, in that case, what are my necessities if I'm looking to get into this field?
Yes. So, first of all, I'll say coding is not at all difficult. I didn't have any exposure in coding prior to, starting my career into hardcore data science. When I was with Infosys and Ernst and Young, we were using analytical tools, right? And these analytical tools, they have their own advantages slash disadvantages. When we go into more in-depth problem solving, now these analytical tools try to falter. That's where you need a lot of customization, lot of, customized outputs coming out from the data, and that's where the loveliness of these programming languages is there, right? They don't have that limitation which and any analytical tools like, Tableau, Power BI, Click, Nime, they have. I'll just try to explain up this thing with a very simple example. So the client wanted us to create a solution in a very quick time, right? Using analytical tools. Obviously, coding something from scratch takes time. So client wanted us to create that solution within a month's time. So we advised them to start using the analytical tools, right? So we started using analytical tools. Then, after a week's time, we understood that there are certain areas in data cleaning and data structuring that could not be achieved without programming languages, right? So eventually we had to move to, R and Python to make that customization, to make that data structured for us to start using. So you see, lot of analytical tools that are available in the market, they have this Python and R integration because they themselves know their own limitation. That is why they have opened their integration to these two programming language. Learning programming language, learning coding is not at all difficult. We have Python language, which is a very simple language, and you can, upskill yourself with this language within 3 months timeline, right? And you say that, how much coding is required. 100% coding is required. Let us be very candid. If anyone says that you can do without coding your data science and data analytics work, they are actually, telling a lie. So you have to understand that coding is required. Hard code coding is required. You go to any interview, they ask you the your coding proficiency. So period.
Right. Right. So I am quite proficient when it comes to C, C++. So now for me, understanding or learning maybe Python becomes a bit easier because I know the logical structure of a particular problem statement. So from that, maybe I can deduce something. Just the basic barrier of language change should not be a problem if I understand the logic. So that's what I understand when it comes to coding. It's all about understanding the algorithm, understanding the logic behind it, right? So in others cases, I've seen people who may know a certain language which they are not much proficient with, So in that case, from a technical manager point of view, like since you have been leading a team of 80 odd people, 80 odd data scientists in your company. So what do you think is that one particular factor that is missing in most of the new data scientists?
Uh, there are two things, Mayuk. One is, I said, the ability to think critically, which, when you go and sit for an interview, the candidates are pretty much comfortable if you give them 500 lines of codes to write. Give them a case study to start working, and they will start writing. The moment you tell them that, look, this is the sales data that you have, and you need to come up with five analysis on your own, which would basically suit the sales manager requirement to increase the sales. So this is basically a simple business problem. So the moment you give this sort of business problem, they start faltering. And you give them a business problem which has 500 lines of coding, they will happily accept that. So that critical thinking is what missing. And second is, now this is a problem with uh, people who are coming from software background and getting into data science. They feel that if you give them a problem, they have to start writing codes, 500, 1000 line of codes. But eventually we see that, whatever solution they have achieved in those 500 lines of code could have been done in just 10 lines of code. So the way they have been nurtured to write codes, they try to make it more complex rather than making it more simple. So at the end of the day, data science is not about how much lines of code you derive. It's all about how much value that particular code that you have written generates to the business users, right?
Right,
So
right.
these are the two areas which I feel the newcomers or people who are trying to get into data science domain should focus on, keeping things simple and thinking critically.
Right. You just mentioned that most of the analytics tool that we used have Python and R integrated with them, right? In today's date, almost every problem's solution is there in Stack Overflow, if I'm not wrong. The logic is something that needs to come from my own end, right? Because I need to think logically, I need to think on my feet. But when I'm talking about coming up with a certain problem, because when I'm talking about a particular analytics tool that already has a set of languages that I need to input to come up with a particular solution. So in that case, why is it important for me to even learn Python and R? I can go into Stack Overflow. I just need to know how to properly search. We know that most of the problems are available in Stack Overflow. Then why do we need the languages?
So, Mayuk, you would know something about Chat GPT, which has come up, right? Why to go to Stack Overflow also if you have a Chat
Exactly.
GPT,
It-
right?
exactly. That's
You
all.
you
That's all.
you put in the question what you want, and Chat GPT will give you the codes, right? Just copy the codes, put it in your Jupyter notebook, and execute. Things done,
Absolutely.
right?
Right. Right.
But that is not the real life scenario that we are dealing with, right? At least to uh, put in those input points what you require in the Chat GPT dialog box, you need to have that critical thinking in my mind, in your mind,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Right.
So that is where, you know nowadays, if I as a coder write 100 line of codes, 80 or 85 percent of the code is basically a copy paste, coming from the Stack Overflow through Google searches, right? But at least, even though you are going and searching on Google or Stack Overflow, you need to ask the right question. So that is where, and whether the output that is being given by Stack Overflow or Chat GPT at all suits your requirement. So nowadays, the ability of a coder is not to write codes. The ability of a coder is to basically understand whether a particular code is suitable in the current scenario that they are having. So even though you have Stack Overflow, even though you have Chat GPT, you still have to have that critical mindset and an understanding to basically uh, understand what code will suffice my problem at hand.
Okay. we are hearing a lot of buzzwords like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Web3 now. Web3 is coming into the picture. So, how important is data science and data analytics is going to be for these fields?
Great. So we'll have to understand what artificial intelligence generally means. So data science is a bigger gamut that we are talking, right? Whenever we are dealing with numbers, right? Numbers, table format data, structured data, we call it as data science or data analytics. Okay. Whenever we are talking anything related to images, anything related to natural language texts, it is more towards artificial intelligence. Okay, so you can understand this data science to be a bigger umbrella, and under that umbrella we have data analytics, we have machine learning, we have artificial intelligence, we have deep learning. Okay, so data science is a bigger domain that we are talking about, and these are the small components in the small subsets. So once you learn the nitty gritties of data science, in a way you are learning some of the components in either of these smaller subsets, right? Say for example, if you are doing sales predictive analytics, so it is all about using the machine learning algorithms, forecasting algorithms, to come up with that forecasted numbers of sales, right? So it is nothing but you are understanding and you are learning the concepts of machine learning to come up with that forecasting, which is again overall it's a data science domain. So once you start your journey into a data science domain, you get the flavor of each and every subparts or the subcomponents, be it data analytics, be it using machine learning algorithms, be it using natural language processing when you are dealing with textual data. Say for example, understanding the sentiment of from the reviews of customers for any particular product. Okay, so these are all text data that we are talking, we are manipulating those text data and coming up with a sentiment score. This is using natural language processing, which is basically a subset or a part of AI, right? Then again, there are advanced mechanism coming up of deep learning, where you have that unstructured data. Say for example, doctors handwritten prescription, they have a lot of unstructured data, right? Why unstructured? Because doctors write xyz things in that medical prescription, starting from general advice to medicinal advice to test recommendations. This is not no structure at all in that handwritten prescription. So to basically decode those inputs, we have deep learning coming in. So these are small subsets. So once you start learning data science, you get flavor of these smaller components, and later on you can specialize in either of these specific areas. Either you specialize in natural language processing, where you play with lot of textual data, or if you are comfortable using tabular data of numbers, you can very well go into hardcore data science. You can very well go into something called computer vision or image processing, which is again image data you are playing with, right? So but as a whole, if you start learning data science, you tend to get flavor of each of the component, and later on you can specialize into a specific area.
Right. So, from a technical manager point of view, and most importantly, from the point of view of a person who takes technical interview, right? So, what do you think a person requires apart from the ones that you have already mentioned, right? So, right now, what we are thinking is most of the time the data analytics or data science interviews have a certain structure to it. So, as you mentioned, whenever you give them, say, certain customer problem. So, in your case, what is that one thing that you, or in fact, all your data science buddies from other companies are looking at? Guy who is getting out of an institute is better prepared because is life projects important, or is projects working with the company is important, or is there any other factor which a particular person has to look into, or you as a technical recruiter will look into?
Sure. So the first thing is, always a live project helps. because there you are dealing with the real life problem, and you are providing a real life solution. Having said that, if you are coming straight from a college background where you don't have much of an exposure, so you have online services of Kaggle, machine learning repository where you can go and get the real life data. So all these data that are available there are predominantly the real life data which the companies have uploaded for you to start solving. They create a lot of hackathons there on Kaggle, on UCL machine learning repository, all these websites. You download those data points, you start solving based on your know-how, based on your research, right? One of the most important thing which I generally look into a candidate is the level of research that he puts into uh, to solve any problem, right? Say for example, the handwritten prescription text extraction from that handwritten doctor's prescription. So there, you will not have a plain vanilla solution based on which you can extract those information. So there can be five or different set of data science models, AI models, which are playing parallelly hand in hand to basically come up with the solution. So what are those road blockers you can come up with, and how do you solve those road blockers, right? So say for example, you get the doctor's prescription and the image quality of the prescription is not good. So how are you are going to enhance the picture quality, image quality before you go and put those prescriptions into the model, right? So those sort of in-depth research, in-depth understanding with solution. Okay, so if you give the problem statement to your interviewer, to me, that's fine. I mean, I have my own research wing to do the research, but if you give them solution that look, these are some of the problems which you will encounter and these are potential solutions, and all these solutions you can upskill yourself, you going through Kaggle and other repositories online, right? There are tons of available resources where you can make your hands dirty, play around, and speak about them during our interviews. Create your CVs in such a way that it has all the real life projects, even though if you are not associated with any company, you have not done an internship, that doesn't matter. If you can showcase top three projects that you have worked on based on the data that you have kind of received from these online repositories, it's good enough for you to get and land your job.
Great. So before we move on, something which you feel is going to change in the next 5 years in the field of data science. And most, when I say it's going to change in the field of data science, by that I mean something that is going to totally revolutionize the whole field, or maybe that's going to completely change the way we look at jobs. Because a lot of jobs are getting replaced. Like I had a talk with Mr. Abhishek Rumta last week. So he was saying that a new technology is being created in every 6 months. So,
Yeah.
what excites you the most, and what do you think is going to change in the next 5 years in terms of job, in terms of data science?
In terms of data science, i'll I'll basically quote a news which I read a couple of days back. Scroll through and you will get to see that Google has basically declared code red for their Google search engine. So code red is nothing but a sign of danger for any of the Google's solutions that is available in the market. And you can understand Google search that we are talking. So Google search has been there since ages, and that is predominantly one of the most used search engine. Sundar Pichai has basically declared code red for their Google search engine because of the invention of ChatGPT. So you can
Interesting.
understand a mammoth company like Google, their presence is also endangered because of innovations that are there in the market, that are coming up in the market in every 6 months. To keep yourself abreast, obviously you need to upskill yourself on a regular basis. you have to identify the resources which will keep you on your toes. What is going to change for data science is the world is moving more towards ready-made solutions. Say for example, if today any company comes up to me and says that, look, I want to do this image processing, do you have any tool in your mind? So I'll say that, I can develop this tool, but they will say, no, 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 I will want something which is a low code environment where I can readily do a plug and play and start using. So uh, you need to be abreast with the coding skills, but also be open to use this low code and develop on this low code platform. Say for example, I'm talking about Nime Analytics platform. So it's a very good data science tool which you can use, and it's again a low code environment. You have this R and Python integration, and a lot of the companies, they don't want to go into the development phase of 3 months, 4 months to create a solution. So that's where I see the world is moving more towards low code, no code environment. So what you as a budding and a newbie into data science domain needs to do is get your concepts cleared. Okay, at the end of the day, those tools, those languages will be a facilitator or an enabler for you. You would have to know that when should I use mean, when should I use median, and when should I use mode. Okay, and how is basically those languages or those tools will not teach you. And the companies, they are now looking more conceptual data scientist or a conceptual data analyst rather than a coder data analyst or a coder data scientist. Okay, you need to keep yourself acquainted, upskilled all the time with these latest tools and technologies, but the conceptual clarity will be most important.
Right. So we have very less time left. So before we close, quick tips. Give us three pointers, which is extremely important, so that I can stay relevant in the industry, in the data science industry for the next 10 years. Number one. And number two, what do I need to know apart from the basic technical and the communication skills? What else do I need to know? Number three, how can we reach you, or how can we reach IndusNet who is hiring presently, and what is it that you will be specifically looking for when you're looking at hiring?
Okay, so number one, learn Python. This will basically make you recession proof for the next 10 years or 15 years, if not more, right? Be very much active on social media. When I say social media, it's not Facebook, it's LinkedIn and Twitter. There you can join a lot of forums, lot of groups, which will basically broaden your thinking capability into in terms of where this entire data science domain and gamut is going. Okay, and third is again the real life projects. In terms of how the candidates can reach IndusNet is we generally come up with job openings on LinkedIn, wherein we invite external candidates to drop in their CV and take the assessment and get themselves enrolled, onboarded. And along with that, you can reach out and drop in your CV personally, physically to the office directly, the SDF building which we have, wherein the assessment can be taken on by the suitable people. So these are the two areas or the two places where we can be reached out to. And yeah.
Great, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Deepak, for this wonderful session. So I personally believe there are lots of other questions that I actually wanted to get it cleared from you, but we are running short of time. So maybe we'll just keep it at this. So let's keep it short. Let's maybe take it some other time. Let's first go ahead and create value in the ecosystem, right? So we actually want to make sure that people know the nitty-gritties of what they need when they are trying to get into data science. So I'm pretty much sure that they would love to reach out to you. So people can reach out to you over LinkedIn. I'll paste your link right below this podcast. And yeah, Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that.
Thanks, Mayuk. Thanks for giving this opportunity to share some of the learnings that I have garnered over a period of time to the larger audience for the betterment. Thanks, Mayuk, for your time.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, Deepak.